In a land where cacti outnumber cell towers and the horizon stretches further than a fiber optic cable, it's time for Valley's Bits, Bytes and Banter, the podcast that looks a bit behind the scenes of a broadband provider, takes a big bite out of the tech world, and serves up a healthy dose of banter with people in our community. And now, without further ado, here's your host, Bob Dahlstrom.
Hello, everyone. As Lee Patterson said in the intro, I am Bob Dahlstrom, your host, along with my partner in crime, Ralph Score.
I'm here.
Hey, how you doing today, Ralph?
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. And thank you for listening to our episode of Valley's Bits, Bytes and Banter, where we talk a little tech news, maybe a little bit about what Valley's has going on right now as far as projects. But the main focus is featuring a special guest every episode. We have another great guest today lined up, ready to go.
We have a great guest.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So, Bob, where can they catch our podcast at?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that, Ralph. You can find it myriad of places. Our podcast is hosted on Podbean, so you could either use the free Podbean app or you can go to podbean.com. Search Valley's Bits with an apostrophe S. That's usually the easiest way to find it. And you'll see all our episodes there. We're building up quite the library on there as well. You can find it on Spotify, iHeart, Apple, on YouTube, and even on our website at vtc.net/blog.
Yeah.
And listen to all the episodes and this one. And we encourage you to download them, listen to them. Give us a review. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, and if you got questions for us or got something you want us to cover, where can they send a question to us?
Please email us at podcast. I almost said Podbean. podcast@teamvtg.net. And then we can address it in one of our episodes.
Yep.
Or maybe it'll be a topic of one of our episodes. Who knows?
And if you caught our holiday special.
Yeah, we did a special holiday episode with Josh
special.
and Jacob and Cenas. Yeah, we talked about a little bit about tech.
We're not going to go into the debate.
No, mostly about holiday movies, what our top holiday movies were. And
Die Hard.
And whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And we're not going to get into that here because I'm sure our guests, we can pull into that. We can have that whole discussion for another hour. But it was a great episode. We had a lot of fun with it and had a good time. So please check it out. Listen to it. See what you think.
Yeah.
All right, Ralph, you brought some interesting information for us today.
Yeah, a couple things. This just came off of the FCC, of course. The FCC recently, not too long ago, they had a whole thing where they did this is all about mitigation database for basically robocalls, right? And if you've noticed that robocalls may have slacked off a little bit, right? Basically, companies using America's phone networks must be actively involved in protecting consumers from scammers. So they're tightening the rules to ensure voice service providers know their responsibilities to help stop junk robocalls. The new rules followed a sweeping action by the FCC's Enforcement Bureau that 2,411 non-compliant companies show cause as to why the FCC should not put them on this list. So they really put some people on notice. And
quite a few.
Yeah. And I've noticed a slacking off because I used to get the calls all the time about your car warranty and about my, my student loan that's been paid for 30 years. And I don't really get those anymore. But what I get are the texts.
Right.
So now the question is, what are they going to do about all the robo-texts and the scams that we're seeing that come on our phones on our direct messaging?
Now, I do want to throw out there, and one of the questions, especially this time of year, that people get is all the political calls and all the things that I keep getting. How is this do not call working? Those are exempt from the do not call. The, political calls are exempt from that.
That and anybody that you've done business with. If you've done any kind of business with them at all, you basically said
there's the implication
kind of
that
like you've opted in. You know? What I want to know is when are the political ads on TV? You'd think that like the streamers could have an auto censor that says, "Oh, it's a political ad. Let's mute them."
I like the idea of because the different streaming platforms, right? You have the ad versions if they're free. Yeah. Or you pay a low fee, you may still have some ads, or the premium without the ads.
Yeah.
I like the idea of if you do the lower tier ones, that one of the settings you have is what ads do you not want to see, and you could check.
I've tried to
what
do
you
that.
do not want to see. I wish they would all do that.
Yeah.
And political.
Unfortunately, they don't do that. So
because they pay a lot for those ads because they can.
Yeah. So we've got another thing now here too, and this is from the NTCA, which is the broadband, really the company. It's the Broadband Alliance, right? It's the people that really they represent us as a company.
As far as
Nationwide,
rural
as a lot
broadband
of
providers like Valley. Yeah.
Anyway, they've come out with their survey report in 24, and they found that there's a steady progress by members in delivering better broadband in rural America. And the statement from Shirley Bloomfield says, year over year, NTCA's community-based provider members like us lead the way in deploying and sustaining high-quality broadband in rural America. Our broadband internet availability survey underscores that not only did providers continue to offer better broadband services, but also that rural consumers are making use of these more capable services in greater numbers. And says, as we look forward to the future, it is critical that these efforts to deliver affordable, reliable broadband and the foundation that supports them, the Universal Service Fund, will be sustained so that rural consumers, businesses, schools, and healthcare providers have the connectivity they need, and rural America can continue to contribute meaningfully and efficiently to our nation's well-being. So I think that's a pretty important statement, because the Universal Service Fund is what basically makes it affordable for people in rural areas to have things like internet without paying way, way too much money or even being able to have it at all.
Yeah, and everybody that has service, whether it's landline service, internet service, there's one of those fees on there goes to the Universal Service Fund. So everybody is paying into this fund that companies such as Valley can draw upon to help keep services affordable. And that by that means helping to pay for the networks. They could put in the equipment, the backside of that to develop these and build them and upgrade them, like we're actually doing right now. There's big projects going on.
Yeah, because if you think about the distance you might have to pull something like fiber optics through a rural area, it's not cheap to do it. And without that fund, that wouldn't happen for a lot of people.
In fact, we went into that in quite a bit of depth with Tim Bowlby on one of our recent episodes. Check that episode out if you haven't. We talked about that. Yeah. And a lot of the projects we're able to do right now, which is we are in the middle of our fiber expansion and upgrade projects
in a couple
that we're
areas.
doing virtually throughout our entire territory.
Yeah.
And then some.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty exciting stuff.
So now we're going to get to what I like to call the spurious facts of the day. and we're actually going to open up the mic on our guest because he might have something to do, because this is all about birds today.
Let's hear it.
So here's one. Did you know that the red-billed qualia is the most common wild bird on the planet? It has an estimated adult breeding population of 1.5 billion pairs. Now, do you know what the most prevalent non-wild bird is?
Turkey.
Chickens.
Oh, I was going to say turkey.
Go to Hawaii.
Yeah. and here's something a lot of people do know. Flamingos stay together for the rest of their lives as pairs. Some couples have been together for 50 years or more.
That I knew.
Yeah. And actually, they say the beta-carotene from their crustacean and plankton diet gives them their pink hue.
They're beautiful color.
Yeah, beautiful color.
They do have it.
So now, I'm a big movie fan, of course, and you know this, Bob, and I'm a huge Alfred Hitchcock fan, so I've got a couple of little tidbits about the movie The Birds, right? Okay, so
here we go.
So the seagulls in Alfred Hitchcock's 62 film The Birds were fed a combination of wheat and whiskey to keep them from flying too much. I don't think you could do that today.
That's like my grandfather.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
He just thought he could fly.
He just thought he could fly.
So, and then here's the other one. In the scene in The Birds where actress Tippi Hedren is assaulted, it took a week to film. The birds were actually tied to her garments by lengthy nylon threads so they couldn't fly away.
And that would make them upset.
Her. Yeah, I think so.
And that would get them to flap around and, cause some little chaos.
Exactly.
I can see that.
Well, and you know what's interesting about the movie The Birds, the ravens were the Chihuahuan ravens, which are one of the common species we have around here.
Really?
And amazingly enough, this year our theme for the festival is ravens.
Really?
So, no kidding.
One of the national experts in here giving talks over the weekend, and there will be a movie going on Friday night, and we're actually going to do a community showing later on. But for the festival time, we're going to be doing about the ravens in Yellowstone. So it's
that's
it all fits
awesome.
right in with that fact. There.
That's fast. That's good stuff. I love that.
We have a nesting pair of ravens at our house that come back every year. They've got a big nest, and their nest is like gigantic, up in the top of a pine tree up there.
Really?
Yeah, and I forget what we were calling. We were giving them names every year, and the dogs would go out and bark at them, and they would come down and like harass the dog that would be underneath the tree barking at them when they would have a chick up there. So pretty interesting. Now crows and ravens, of course, are different, right? A lot of people they
cousins.
They're cousins, yeah.
Right.
But so we know what certain things like flock of birds. A murder or congress is a bunch of crows. A parliament or wisdom or study is a gathering of owls, and a flamboyance, of course, is a collection of flamingos. Now, crows, though, are able to recognize and recall human faces. especially those associated with negative experiences, right?
Oh,
It
no.
says they could even express their resentment of a single individual to other crows. So,
Well, and you know, funnily enough, the professor who's coming is actually one of the persons who was involved in that study. And for those facial recognition studies, they use these really intricate pullover masks that you see like in movies. So they're
Right.
very realistic. And of course, the one character, well, I wouldn't call it a character, the person they picked for the ominous face, Richard Nixon. So
I would definitely classify him as ominous.
and that is our spurious facts of the day.
I do have one real quick to tie to that correctly. Right now, one of the biggest tech events in the world goes on every year. It's a Consumer Electronics Show, CES.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the top products that they're displaying this year, and it's not for consumers to attend, it's for developers and other companies so they can get other people to invest in their products and help them to bring them to market. But one of them is the first smart binoculars that can identify 9,000 plus species of birds and animals with a touch of a button.
Wow.
So I thought that was
that's
fantastic.
Cool. What about the bird feeder, right, with the camera
I love
integrated
that.
in it? That's
yeah, those
pretty
are
cool.
available now, and you
Yeah.
can have one in your. If you love that kind of, and we live in a perfect community to do that. A lot of my neighbors
Yeah.
have bird feeders. You can actually have one that's with a camera built in. And can see the birds up close that come to feed.
Because I thought about doing that because we have bird feeders and we get a lot of varieties come in. I thought about putting a camera on it and doing a live feed out there just so people could see the birds coming in. Because we'll build our bird feeder out of like pine cones and like different almond butters and that kind of stuff to attract them in. So
That's so cool.
anyway.
well, the latest with that too is also bird song and sound. So when the birds come in and they're singing, it'll also tell you what species it is and record so you can hear the sounds audibly as well. That's the current fad in the birding magazines.
That's pretty cool.
One a great example of how technology it touches virtually every aspects of our lives and our hobbies and our passions, right? And
Absolutely.
we're talking about birding and enjoying watching birds and their behavior. And speaking of that, our special guest will have a lot more to say about that when we come back. We're going to introduce him, but first we're going to take a short, quick break. We'll be right back, everyone. Stick around.
Hey, are you playing Fortnite?
Yeah.
Let's go, man. I'm gonna beat you so bad.
You know I could go pro if I wanted to. You do not stand a chance. Besides, we always just play against each other.
Yeah, that's true.
We need to find more people to play with.
Hey, Valley Telecom has the Fiber Gaming Network, an online community where we can compete in tournaments and win real prizes, or just meet new gamers and participate in casual game nights.
Whoa, that's so cool. But how much does it cost?
It's actually free. Valley Telecom is providing this to their community at no charge. We just go to vtc.net/gaming and sign up.
Wow, that's so awesome. Now I can show everyone I'm the best.
Get in the game with a fiber gaming network powered by Valley Telecom. Go to vtc.net/gaming to sign up today.
Welcome back to Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter, our podcast where we feature interesting people in our communities. And that's a solid piece of advice. Fiber Gaming Network. Go check it out. You can go to vtc.net/gaming and register there.
Yep.
If you're an online gamer, you love to do that. Even if you're not, you want to check it out. It's free to do it.
And they got tournaments. You can win stuff. You can win prizes.
They have community nights for those maybe who don't feel like being that competitive but still want to play and
Yep.
be part of the community.
Yep.
It's awesome. Go check it out, vtc.net/gaming.
And no, they don't have Pong, which is what I need.
Ralph,
that's my
that
level.
was Ralph's very first question
That's
on
my
that.
level of gaming is Pong. You know.
But I will say, I think most of the games they feature, from what I've seen on there, are games that you can download to your specific platform
Yeah.
for free.
Yeah.
You can either do PC games, Xbox, Switch, PlayStation, any of those.
Yeah.
The games are free
Yeah.
to play.
Yeah.
I like it. Let's get into our. We've hinted around a little bit about who our guest was. We had our guest. It was always like a mystery guest. We didn't get to introduce him, but now it's time to introduce him. He's an environmental scientist at Aplomato Environmental. Did I say that correctly? Close enough.
Yep.
And president of the Wings Ove Willcox Birding and Nature Festival. He's one of the foremost experts on birding in southern Arizona, and his knowledge and experience in birding is well known and respected, not only in this area, but throughout the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Homer Hansen. Homer, how are you doing today?
Oh, not too bad. Enjoying the nice, cool weather we're having here. Perfect for the sandhill cranes, I would say.
I think they're probably enjoying it a bit. Yeah, I mean, it's always that time of year. My wife and I walk early in the mornings, and we go out there. We love it because as you're walking, you can see all the big flocks coming overhead, heading to the fields. They're heading out from dry lake area where they're at normally, and later in the evening you can see them coming back.
It's like watching a bunch of B-52 bomber formations.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's
really
so
is.
fun to watch them come in.
And so plentiful. I mean, so many of them that all come to this area.
Yeah, we just finished up the Game and Fish count was almost a week ago Saturday, and for this end of the valley, we're close to 28,000 or so.
Wow.
And the total count is around 40,000, about 38 something. So we're running close to our average of 40,000 for the valley.
That's amazing.
Wow.
I mean, how far do they come, Homer? Do you know how far they migrate?
Most of our individuals come from Canada and Alaska, but back when the USGS first started doing some GPS tagging with them, and they haven't done anything with them in a little while, so there's no current information, but we had individuals that were staying here who would go as far as Siberia.
No kidding.
Incredible. Yeah, they'd fly across the peninsula there and go into Siberia.
That's incredible. I was curious because my son is living in North Dakota, up in Williston, which is like an hour from the Canadian border, and he Snapchats me every now and then pictures. He goes, "Dad, Sandhill Cranes, check this out."
Yep.
You know, he's like, the connection to Willcox.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
pretty interesting. So I love that. And Wings and Sandhill Cranes are a big part of Wings Over Willcox, right? What was the formulation of Wings Over Willcox? Because you've been involved. Have you been involved with it from the get-go, from the beginning?
Just pretty much. It's over 30 years. It's hard to believe.
It's incredible how fast it's gone.
Yeah,
it is incredible. But the impetus was game and fish. With Sandhill crane is also a bird that is a game bird technically, and there is a season for them, and so they have management of the Sandhill cranes. And in the 90s, birding festivals started becoming quite popular around the country. And there were some festivals, the oldest festivals are probably in the 40s in terms of age. And not the 1940s, but 40 years old. And Texas and Florida had done some, and they're really, really good income and tourism generators for communities. And so Game and Fish came to Willcox here and said to the Chamber of Commerce and said, "Hey, Sandhill Cranes, this is a great opportunity. Why don't you jump on it?" So they started the first festival in 1993.
Wow.
And, and then what happened? Here came a snowstorm, right? And they were just, they were shocked, and 250 people still showed up, even with the snow, to come and see the Sandhill Cranes.
So I think that speaks to the popularity of birding in general.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. So Sandhill Cranes were the beginning of the festival. So. But now the festival also, of course, we recognize there's a wealth of species down here. This Southeast Arizona is one of the best known birding spots in the country. It's one of the top 3 as far as species diversity and whatnot. And that's pretty significant because we're an inland area. The other areas are coastal, like Texas and Florida, and places where you also have, birds that are water birds. So.
Do you think that has to do a lot with the Sky Islands?
Absolutely. We're really the hub of species diversity here in the continental U.S. And so that just... It provides this great diversity again of species, our passerine species especially, and so it's an area that birders come to all the time. And this is for the wintertime, we have well over 100 species of birds that can be seen here.
Yeah.
And that's during the wintertime when a lot of birds have migrated away. So
yeah, we go over to the Portal area all the time in the Cave Creek area, and there's a lot of great birding over there.
Yeah, beautiful area anyway. And then you have all the different species. It's just incredible, especially in our area. Now, it's just about time for Wings Over Willcox. We were talking about this. It's been going on since 93. So moving past 30 years, moving on from that's just amazing. It's been going so well, and it just seems to increase in popularity every year.
It is. And birding overall has increased in popularity. Birding has continually been increasing over the decades. It's getting out in nature. It's a wonderful way to spend time and relax. And birds really connect with all different parts of nature, plants, all elevations, different habitats. But COVID turned into a time period where there was a big boom within the birding community because people were looking for something to do. You couldn't go do some of your normal group activities. You can go out on your own and still have a good time. And so huge boom, 20%, 30% increase in people going out birding here just in the past, 3 to 4 years.
And they didn't have to wear a mask either.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And like you said, you're outside, you're in nature, you're beautiful landscapes and sceneries and beautiful birds. I mean, you can understand the attraction.
Absolutely.
And any age. It doesn't matter your age, old or young. you can really enjoy it.
And
Exactly.
you were talking about a place down by Hereford. Where, can you talk about that again?
Well, given we're in such a rich, diverse area, there's a lot of places, like you mentioned, Portal, and there's places where literally homeowners have opened up their yards to birding and bird watching. And what's happened, these people did this 30, 40 years ago. Some of these people have passed on. The Pattons is an example down there in Patagonia, where they passed on, and now the Audubon Society has it, and it's preserved to go watch birds. And the other example, referring to another lady who actually passed on as well, but it's Ash Canyon B&B. We're talking about that, and that's down in Hereford. And these are places where you can go, and there's lots of bird feeders up, and the birds just come in droves, and you can just sit back and watch and see all these beautiful birds, especially the hummingbirds. We have some of the most species diversity of hummingbirds here in southeast Arizona. So people come to just love to watch the hummingbird feeders. And you can see 12, 13 species in one day. And hummingbirds are, of course, quite gaudy, to say the least.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I can remember I was doing a thing at the University of Wyoming one time, and I got in their big hummingbird aviary, right? I felt like I was in an air raid in Lebanon.
It just felt like that. My mother-in-law has a hummingbird feeder on her porch, and I have one.
Yeah.
And I love that time of year when they come around and they can get a little more accustomed to you if you're outside a lot and working in the yard like I do. So they come check you out, and they'll sit there and hover, and you can do the colors and the different variety of sizes.
Yep.
It's just phenomenal to watch on hummingbirds. Love hummingbirds.
Oh, they're incredible. I mean, my grandmother is one of the impetuses for my becoming a birder and here in Willcox, and I would clean her feeders and replace her feeders, put water in them as a kid growing up, and she just loved to have one hanging right by the kitchen window, doing dishes, cooking stuff, just watch the hummingbirds come in. They're amazing creatures. You could just study hummingbirds your whole life. There's fascinating physiological characteristics. We could talk about them for hours.
Yeah. Wasn't there something about the science about how fast their wings move and all that? That there's records as far as the wing speed on them.
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
And heart rate. Everything. We're talking like over 800 to 1,000 beats per minute and stuff like that.
That's
it's
incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible engineering there.
Now what is like the lifespan of the average hummingbird, do you think?
Well, that's the amazing thing, is that hummingbirds, there's a general rule that things that are smaller in size tend to have shorter lifespans. So we see that with rodents, for example, and whatnot. But hummingbirds are one of those exceptions. Even though they're really small, they're highly intelligent. They have amazing migrations, amazing communication, and they'll live well over 13, 20, 15 years, especially in captivity, where you have resources to. Living out in the wild is a tough place to live, right?
Yeah.
Have a wildfire or a drought. There's not enough flowers. It makes it harder, but they can live for an incredible length of time.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. So let's get into Wings Ove Willcox. And as we mentioned, you are the president, right, of the festival?
Formally now, yes. Chairman is also the kind of what I've been mostly over all the years, but now we're Wings Ove Willcox is our own nonprofit, and so as such, president's just the title of the nonprofit. But
sure,
chairman's probably better.
and it's getting to become very well known, like you said. You've got fans and enthusiasts from all over the world that come for Wings Ove Willcox. Give us a little bit of rundown on Wings Ove Willcox. What can we expect this year for programs and lectures and educational talks, things of that nature that'll be available for people?
Well, Wings Ove Willcox, the standard format is people can come to the community center, and that's a great indoor venue, of course, and we can go in and there's at the Nature Expo we have lots of different vendors and exhibitors, and so there's educational stuff. There's a diversity of things. It's not necessarily just bird oriented. We have, of course, there's a booth there that sells anything bird related. Eric Moore has that, and it's fantastic. But there's a little geology corner for kids who want to come in and poke at rocks, and you walk away with some fossils, for example. And some years we're lucky we get to have some live birds, which is just amazing to see. And so there's stuff that happened at the Nature Expo, and then tied in with that we have our seminars, our presentations, and we have at least 10 going on for the festival this year. One I'd like to highlight, Eric, who's the director out there at the Ameren Foundation, will be talking about historical, I might have this wrong, macaws, but one of these other species they had, and the feather trade and wild birds that they had back, from we're talking 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fascinating talk. So there's a lot of little talks, and again, there's stuff about bats generally, and there's stuff about snakes, and so there's different talks in there, so you can learn a lot. All those activities are free and open to the community. Anybody can come throughout the weekend. It opens up on Friday in the morning and goes through Sunday, but really, Friday and Saturday are the really full days. And then we have
you guys
the field
have tours.
trips too.
You
Yeah,
got
the
tours,
field
right?
trips are the other thing. And those are paid. We have to recoup our expenses for those.
Sure.
And so those other activities I'm talking about, again, anybody can come in for free.
I've been there, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's great, and it's only getting better. It's
Yeah.
really nice. Post-COVID here, we've just been kind of growing it back, you could say. Yeah. But the field trips, we have lots of field trips that go out. We have a beginning birding field trip. We have birding trips that focus on hawks.
Yeah.
Of course, going out looking at raptors, incredible. We have one for
That's pretty cool.
I guess the sandhill cranes. I've been doing sparrows now for quite some time, and sparrows are like one of those specialty groups of birds.
How many species or how many different variations of sparrows?
Here in southeast Arizona, we can see over 20 species of sparrows. It's possible, and some trips gone out before and gotten up to like 16 species, which is pretty
That's
good
amazing.
for just a day of birding.
Yeah.
So,
And you said obviously this is a growing and ever evolving and ever changing, and that even includes facilities, right? Even when you guys go on the tours and the things where people go, the observation platforms and all that stuff. I mean, the areas you guys do a little travel, but not much, because everything's pretty close to, say, community center. That's pretty much the hub.
right, it's true. Although if you go down to Whitewater Draw, I mean, that going down to Elfrida, of course, takes an hour or so to get there. And of course, that's a really nice area. And then going out on those trips along the way, it's really easy to going through the agriculture areas to see, especially the raptors around the fields or other birds. There's some other species people like to see, but it's fun to go out and then, there's an eagle. We got to pull over to see the eagle, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because they're out there. That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. So, Wings Ove Willcox is the big event. Is there a time of year that's best, or is there never a bad time of year to go out and look at all the different species? I mean, obviously, your migration during the winters, you're going to have more come south, but at certain times, you say even in the summer here or in the fall.
So it's, that's one thing about this area. Of course, it is really good year round. Now, things are relative. If you go out here, you can see the sandhill cranes, which are here in the wintertime. They're not here in the summertime. But you might be really nippy in the morning, right? Of course, the days would tend to be really nice. And then in June, if anybody said there's a quote-unquote bad time to go birding, June is the one that is generally picked out as being the least favorite time for birders to come here to Arizona to see birds. And that's all about, the heat.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. That's when you head to the Chiricahuas, right?
That's
when you head to the
That's
mountains.
exactly it. For the ones who are the professional bird guides, June is the slowest month. So
Right.
I can imagine that. I understand that.
Yeah.
It can get quite hot.
Well,
It can get sweaty.
And I remember in the winter, the first time I was shooting video, and I went down to white water to get the cranes leaving in the morning, and I got down there at sunup, of course, and it was 11 degrees, and I kept having to go back to the truck and warm my camera up and then get back out and shoot more. But it was an amazing experience. If you get a chance to do that, it'll blow your mind watching the takeoff in the morning.
It is, and then if you're not a cold person, the evening
coming back
just
in,
watch him come in, and you get to watch the sunset versus the sunrise.
Yeah,
it can be quite an extraordinary experience, and it doesn't stop being extraordinary.
No.
I've been doing this a long time, and I can still get goosebumps.
And the sound,
I can imagine
the sound of all those birds too, all in one place. It's pretty amazing,
unmistakable.
Yeah,
and like so you couple that with them coming in and our gorgeous sunsets and sunrises. I mean, how can you go wrong? What a great time
it is.
Yeah.
So if people want to know more about Wings Ove Willcox or want to consider coming, where can they look? Where can they find that information, Homer?
WingsOverWillcox.com. The only problem we have with that is making sure people from not around here put 2 L's in Willcox, right?
Oh, yeah, we deal with that all the time.
We still deal with that all the time. That is correct. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking with Homer Hansen. He's our special guest today. We've got a little more to talk about, and maybe a little more about birding and a little more about Homer when we come back from our break. Everybody stick around.
The endless options for streaming movies, shows, and sports can be overwhelming. Valley Telecom is here to help with Stream Now, your ultimate online reference for all things streaming. Whether you're a binge watcher or just looking for a quick episode to enjoy, we've got you covered. Discover recommendations, compare platforms, and find the best content for your favorite streaming devices. Stream Now makes it simple to get the most out of your streaming experience. Enjoy the journey of discovering your next favorite show, movie, or live event all in one place. The best part is it's free to use. Unlock the door to endless viewing possibilities by going to gostreamnow.com/VTC today.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, to Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter. I'm your host, Bob Dahlstrom, along with my co-host and partner, Ralph Score. Today's guest, we're talking to Homer Hansen, and we were just talking at the break about Wings Ove Willcox, one of the, I shall say it, premier birding events in the world, definitely in the country.
Definitely in the country and definitely here in Arizona, for sure.
For sure, and people from all over come. And we were talking about just the variety of programs people can go listen to. They come to the community center, the displays, products they can see, other parts like geology, we mentioned that, and tours they can go on and to go see the different species out there in the areas. Anything else you want to touch on there that people can experience while they're here?
Well, in addition to the free activities, we do have the Saturday night banquet, which is held at the Elks Lodge. And as we were talking at the first part of the show, Dr. John Marsliff is going to be talking about ravens. Given we have both the common and Chihuahuan raven here, I mean, ravens are fascinating, amazing, intelligent birds. They're just fun to watch, and you know, people can develop relationships with them. They're long lived. They get to know people on a personal basis, and if you have a positive relationship, you can literally, you know, communicate, share gifts, and so forth. It's happened throughout history.
I'm going to have to try that now with the nesting couple that come to our house every year.
Yeah, absolutely.
What now? If I were to give them a gift, you know, it's not like do they like shiny things?
They do like shiny things. They also like if you have a mouse trap, you know, not a gooey one, but like a just you know, one of the other flattening kinds, right? Those are great gifts, especially when they're fresh, right? Those are food items.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
food items are excellent, and literally you go throughout history and look, and there's a lot of references to you know, relationships between ravens and mankind over time.
Yeah.
So John Marsliff is going to be talking about that, as well as just some of their natural history here. The banquet does cost a fee, of course, to cover for the meal expenses and so forth. But that's something that is greatly enjoyed by people from the community who have come in the past. We have a silent auction, which generates revenues there that we put towards conservation projects, and there's some fun stuff there to bid on. We have a lady here, Barb Moe out of Sunsights, who does quilts, and actually there's a raffle. If you go to we went away from the silent auction format for that, so everybody have an opportunity. Beautiful, amazing quilts every year. You go down to the Nature Expo and get a ticket for, you know, whatever, $5 and something, and have a chance to win her beautiful quilts.
Beautiful homemade quilt.
And you have some pretty cool artists stuff that shows up in photography. I know some of the guys that award-winning photography I've seen.
Exactly.
Has been there.
Yeah.
And so for all the information on these events, wingsoverwillcox.com. Remember, 2 L's in Willcox. Because, yes, as we mentioned, Homer, lots of people forget that there are 2 L's in Willcox.
And what are the dates on this, Homer?
This is coming up the 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. It's always held Martin Luther King weekend. We do that intentionally,
so always
we have
in
the
January.
Monday holiday. Exactly.
Right. It's great.
Very smart.
That's
Not a lot of
smart.
events going on around
Gives
that.
you an extra day to get out.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes, it does.
I recuperate.
Yeah, and recuperate. Yeah, you guys. So, what do you think your attendance is going to be?
Well, we're doing quite well. Relatively speaking. I mean, in prior COVID and stuff, in the let's say early and early, especially mid 2010s. We were averaging around 450 participants.
Oh.
We haven't been at that number in quite some time, but we're back to half of that now. I looked at registrations last night, and we're 218 registrations, which is very good because we're coming back from 120, then to 150 to 170. And
it's not so overcrowded that you can't really stretch out and enjoy what you're doing there either.
No, absolutely. Perfect opportunity to come and enjoy the area and enjoy nature as you can. So, Homer, how did you get involved in birding? What got you involved in this?
At the end of the day, just growing up in Willcox, of course, I think is going to connect you to the birds.
Right.
I mean, even as a tiny kid, it's hard to think about, oh, those are sandhill cranes flying. I didn't think in terms of sandhill cranes flying, or I thought in terms of, that's interesting, looking at those birds flying and hearing their sounds. And then both of my grandmothers, especially, they enjoyed watching birds. They were backyard bird watchers. And there's a lot of people like that out there, just enjoy the birds in their yard. They don't necessarily go out someplace to find birds, but enjoy them there. And that has a big influence. But just enjoying nature and going out in nature. And of course, we live in a beautiful area with such surrounding beautiful mountains, the grasslands. Who's not to love the grass? I love the dry lake. I mean, even with all the dust. I mean, the dust might get all over everything, but just those amazing storms in the monsoon season.
Yeah.
So what got you to the point where you wanted to know that this was going to be a vocation for you?
Well, it kind of developed over time, but as when I went to college, I just loved nature so much. I started taking all the ologies, mammalogy.
I love that how you had that in there. You dabbled in all the ologies.
Yeah, it's like, what are you majoring in? Ology.
And I actually really enjoyed botany, and I started, studying that and saying, holy smokes, my memory's never been that good. There's like, tens and hundreds of thousands of species of plants. There's no way I'm going to be able to remember all these.
My goodness.
But I took a class from Dr. Steve Russell with ornithology, a premier ornithologist here, and it was eye-opening and inspiring, and so
kind of the spark.
It really was. It gave me a big. Indirectly, a big push. I had to work really hard to get an A in that class. I was shocked I got an A, to be honest. And but you know how it is. Some of those things that you wind up putting the most effort into turn around and give you the most growth and enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
So,
And speaking of it, you also said during that you found your affinity for teaching. You love to teach.
Yeah, it had always been there. I think I even knew that back in high school days. I enjoyed kind of helping students out and working with other students and stuff. It was always there, and that's one nice thing I've enjoyed about ornithology, because I do a lot of workshops both through the festival but through Audubon Society and other organizations, and it's a really fun way to connect with people about birds.
Yeah, and a lot to learn, a lot to teach and tell people.
I know so little. I mean, truly, compared to what there is to learn about birds out there, that subject can branch into so many areas. It's absolutely fascinating.
I think that's one of those things where as soon as you know it all, get out.
Exactly.
Or when you think you know it all,
when
get
you think
out.
you know it all.
When you think you know it all, it's time to,
that's one of the things we
out.
talk about. Our industry that we're in is it's never dull. Never boring. There's always new technology, new things to learn
all the time.
Sounds like very much the same thing. There's just an endless amount of education there. You can learn about different species.
And as Ralph, when you're mentioning earlier about the crustaceans went into the pigmentation with the flamingos, with advances of technology and what we can understand and learn at the molecular level with the formation of the pigments, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And you can just go into a whole area there with the study of birds and their feathers and the growth and molt. It's incredible.
Man, that's
just incredible.
fascinating.
Well, and it's kind of like we did a thing on AI, and AI, the study of the right whale and communication with the whale. Imagine what they're going to be able to do with the databases from bird calls and that, as far as being able to actually maybe start communicating with the birds.
So much going on. It is incredible.
Yeah.
And there's so much, since you like to teach, I would assume Wings Ove Willcox is not your only stop during the year when you get involved with other festivals, other things going on relating to nature and birding. How much traveling do you do in teaching?
Well, mostly I don't do as much as I used to. I try and stay within Arizona. I've done a certain amount across the West Coast, California, and California being closer, and then sometimes up into Oregon and Washington. But with family right now, it's family's the number one. Family community is always the number one priority. That's what's most important. And so my son's in school, and I want to be as close to home as often as possible. So,
and you're living here in Willcox.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's good to be home. It's good to be with family, and it's always been home. So,
now, do you have any other hobbies, any other interests that maybe that are not, or even maybe they could be indirectly related? to what you do mostly?
Besides, of course, hiking's an easy one because you just kind of get out in nature doing that.
And we have plenty of that in Arizona.
We have plenty of that, but also I get to enjoy some of my older hobbies like I used to do when I was a kid. With having my son out there, we like to go fishing. Which is
awesome.
That's another way of getting outdoors, but it's kind of its own little area of science too, in its own way. Trying to understand fishing rods, and you could really get into the depths of physics and so forth, and so that's been enjoyable. He's been doing a little study, a science fair project about just fishing line, and talking about different polymers and their different strengths and so forth. That's fun.
Well,
That's
we
awesome.
said that fishing and catching fish don't have a whole lot to do with each other, except they happen at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Well, no, I mean, sometimes you go out fishing. Sometimes you're lucky and you do some catching.
Yeah, every now and then. That's a great day.
It's like
it's
golf.
a really good day either way.
It's like golf spoils a good walk.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Well, Homer, one of the things we like to do is ask our guest a question of the day. And if you've listened to some of our episodes, you've heard some of them. And what it is you don't know what the question is going to be, but you do have some control over it. So I have 7 questions, and I'm going to read you one of those. All you have to do is choose a number between 1 and 7.
Okay.
And I'll ask you that question, and I'm sure it'll have nothing to do with what we've talked about today.
Well, there's lots of good numbers. I'll choose 3 right now.
Number 3. Homer, what topic could you give a 30-minute presentation on without any preparation?
Probably anything with birds. I mean, that's kind of an easy
Is there
one
anything
that way.
else? That one was kind of easy for you. But anything else?
You should have said, but not birds.
Yeah, but not birds. I should have said
Right.
anything other than birds.
Model rockets, fishing, some of these things. I'll be honest. I think once you kind of learn how to teach, and you've had a chance to, and if you know even just a little bit about something, and you like to talk like I do, it's easy to talk for 30 minutes. The problem is getting me to shut up, right? So
Somebody in the back tapping their watch going, hey, 30 minutes are up, 30 minutes are up. All right, so that was a softball question I did throw you. All right, I'm going to throw you one more. If you had a boat, what would you name it? How's that
well,
one?
let's, albatross might be like kind of might be one of the albatross might be a good name for it, or even just the albatross, because the wandering, albatross and all the areas, and you have to imagine being on the ocean and going every which way and seeing all kinds of places. And I think that would be an appropriate name.
I like that name
That's
for a
cool.
boat.
That's cool.
And most boats are she's, right? They say, name her.
Yeah.
Although it's it in the question, I was like, it's more like her. But I love that answer. I think albatross would be an excellent name for a boat.
I'm going to name
and even specific.
I'm going to name my truck that.
You can
The
all right.
albatross.
And they're masters of the wind. It's incredible what they can do. They cover tens of thousands of miles in a year. They can sleep on the wing and be on the wing. But the idea here is that with the boat traveling, you can go anywhere on the wind and see so many things.
That is very true. That's a great. I think that's the definitive answer. I'm going to have to take that question out from now on, Homer. I think you've definitively answered that. You can't get any better answer than that. That's amazing. Homer, it's about time for us to go. We appreciate having you as a guest today, Homer Hansen. Thank you very much for coming on, talking about
thank you for
Wings Ove
having me.
Willcox and all things about birds and nature. We love it. And maybe we'll have you on again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Anything I can do for the community.
Thanks.
We love to
Homer.
hear
It was
it.
really great, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And for Ralph Score, this is Bob Dahlstrom. Guys, be sure to check out our podcast, review them, download them, and wherever you get your podcast. Until the next episode, for Valley's Bits, Bytes, and Banter, take care, everyone.